Hani Mahmoud is in Rafah in southern Gaza. And now, Hani, we've been speaking about continuing strikes in southern Gaza. There are concerns of an ongoing humanitarian catastrophe. And then also we've had this news in Israel, a ban on Al Jazeera operations inside the country. First, though, I want to ask you about the attack on the Karem Abu Salem crossing. It was a mortar attack, and now this crossing is going to close. What does that mean for the prospect of humanitarian aid accessing Gaza?
Yes, well, it's been confirmed right now the crossing, that's Karem Abu Salem, closure is it's effective right now. It is preventing commercial trucks from getting into the Gaza Strip. It's likely to further complicate the already difficult humanitarian situation across the Gaza Strip, mainly here in overcrowded part of the Strip, Rafah city, where 1.5 million displaced Palestinians have been sheltering inside Rafah city. This will just increase the difficulties, and this crossing was used in the past to allow the entrance of commercial trucks carrying supplies that were not allowed through the Rafah crossing as part of the humanitarian aid getting into the Gaza Strip. This closure came after Israeli military in a statement said that it responded to mortar attacks and a barrage of rockets fired at the gathering of Israeli soldiers near Karem Abu Salem. Hamas in the Al-Qassam brigade in a statement, it said that it targeted the very unit that's been planning and directing attacks across Rafah city. The closure is going to further increase the already difficult situations. It's interesting to see how long this will continue, as in light of the ongoing blockade on the entry of humanitarian aid. Mainly, we're looking at food supplies, water supplies, and medical necessities that are needed for already desperate population, either in hospitals or inside evacuation centers across the Gaza Strip.
Now, we were hearing clips a little bit. Earlier on today from citizens in Gaza, and I mean, usually just the struggle of daily life and being able to survive would mean that maybe there isn't much hope in political talks that happen from time to time. But the voices that we were hearing from today seem to say that they really are hoping that the ceasefire talks will produce some respite, even if it's temporary, for them. How closely are people watching these talks?
Well, as events keep evolving in an unexpected way right now, not only there are difficulties in Cairo, Netanyahu is adamant on not sending a delegation to Cairo to further make progress in the talks. The ban on Al Jazeera office, the attacks on Karem Abu Salem, and the closure right now, all coming together, prove what people have expressed, the cautious optimism, because any sudden turn of events is going to get everybody back to square zero, where there is no progress made at all. People are torn apart right now. They live in a limbo. They keep an eye on the talk. They're hoping right now, even though this hope has started to vanish now little by little. People are no longer talking about a ceasefire deal in which they can go back to their homes. This hope's already vanished. The talks right now is a possible expansion of the ground invasion to Rafah city. They're getting ready right now. They want to move to the evacuation zones designated by the Israeli military, despite the frustration that we heard from people that these are not safe zones, because you can't create a safe zone in a war zone, and because of the multiple failures of the Israeli military of giving a clear assurance that these are designated safe zones for people to evacuate to. Multiple times people ended up getting killed inside these very evacuation zones. So people are not really hopeful right now. They just want something that keeps them alive as events keep evolving in unexpected ways.
All right, thank you very much, Hani Mahmoud in Rafah. Well, Bernard Smith joins us live from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. And Bernard, we began the day, I suppose, by speaking to Hani Mahmouda, our colleague there in Gaza, about the area continuing to endure intense aerial bombardments. There's also a fear about famine spreading from the northern to the southern part of Gaza, and then these ceasefire talks, which appear to be going nowhere. Then came this decision by the Israeli cabinet, which met today, to impose this ban on Al Jazeera operations inside the country. Has there been any further reaction to this? Have you been hearing anything there in the occupied West Bank?
I haven't heard anything particular about the closure of Al Jazeera's English and Arabic operations here in the occupied West Bank yet. I mean, the reason we are able to be here, but we're not broadcasting from occupied East Jerusalem or for anywhere else in Israel, is because the ban applies to Israeli domestic territory. This is occupied territory, and for it to be enforced here, there'd need to be some sort of military order from the military governor of this part of the occupied West Bank. That is why, for the moment, we are able to be on air here. But the ban gives the Israeli government in Israel proper permission to confiscate broadcast equipment, to cut Al Jazeera off from cable and satellite companies, and to block websites. And it's a 45-day long ban, which can be continued after that. The cabinet has to vote on it each time. We understand that Al Jazeera, our senior management from Al Jazeera, are looking at the options of a legal appeal, though, to this ban.
And we've been speaking about the ceasefire talks, mediation efforts that are taking place inside Egypt. And we've seen the Israelis playing down any prospects for an end to the war, though that continues to be Hamas's main demand, that there not just be a temporary ceasefire, but a complete Israeli withdrawal from the Strip.
This has always been the sticking point from the outset between Israel and Hamas wanting a complete end to the fighting, Israel not prepared to offer that. We're on the second day now of these latest truce talks in Cairo, mediated between Egypt and Qatar and the US, and there seems to be little sign of any breakthrough. Hamas has said again, any truce must end the war. Netanyahu reiterating again that Israel's aim since the start of the war is to disarm and dismantle Hamas, and Israel has not achieved those aims. Netanyahu's kept repeating that. So there's this offer of this temporary truce, perhaps a 40-day truce, but nothing more than that, and the release of Palestinian prisoners. And from Hamas, you're getting Ismail Haniyeh saying that they are still keen on reaching a comprehensive ceasefire that ends Israeli aggression, sees the withdrawal from Hamas, and a serious deal to free Israelis in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. Remember that the concern from the Israeli side, from Benjamin Netanyahu particularly, is a belief from analysts that any prolonged calm in Gaza will imperil his position because it will put focus on his government and its conduct in the war. And the far right, whom he relies on to stay in power, has said he must continue with his planned invasion of Rafah to target Hamas in Rafah there on the south. So that is why we are at this impasse, despite an enormous amount of pressure from the Americans, from the Egyptians, and from Qatar, from the Americans on Israel, from the Egyptians and Qatar on Hamas.
And an urgent question, Bernard, is the humanitarian aid, the lack of food that is getting into Gaza. We now see the United Nations has spoken about a full-blown famine in the northern part of the territory, and that moving further south. We have already seen many pictures and images of emaciated, starving children. This attack, this mortar attack on the Karem Abu Salem crossing, how much concern is there about how the closure of that crossing point could affect the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza?
Well, the Israelis now say that 10 soldiers were injured in that attack that Hamas has claimed responsibility for on Karem Abu Salem crossing. 3 of those soldiers are seriously wounded, and Israel says that has stopped aid going in to Gaza. It's one of the principal ways that aid is getting in. There was some aid coming in through the north, through the Erez crossing, but Karem Abu Salem is a main convoy route. Already we know that not enough aid was getting in anyway, just a few hundred trucks. Before the war, there was 500 trucks a day supplying Gaza's aid needs, and after that, of course, those needs have multiplied considerably. So no, it's going to have a considerable impact on the amount of aid getting in, unless it's possible to get it in elsewhere. Aid coming in from the air barely scratches the surface. There are drops of aid going on, but it's really not enough.
All right, thank you so much, Bernard Smith in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.